We do not have an official date yet, but it looks likely that Teofimo Lopez and Shakur Stevenson could fight at 140 pounds for Lopez's lineal title. We were at Crawford Canelo, where in the post fight, Teo tried to give Terrence Crawford a bunch of props and was intercepted by Crawford going, "Yeah, but fight Shakur, my little brother." So looks like it'll happen. Again, it's not official. I got to get really into my tape studies, but my first impressions of the fight are what most of the consensus is, which is you got to favor Stevenson. But to be fair to Teo, he has a good track record as an underdog in big fights against southpaws. Josh Taylor, Lomachenko, people thought he was the underdog in those fights. He beat both of them to become champion at 35 and 40. But this actually has a little bit of shades of Terrence and Canelo in that Canelo's Teo. He's the naturally bigger man. On paper, he's the bigger puncher, and his reflexes are a little twitchier, not twitchier, they're a little flashier. And Canelo had those flashy, quick upper body reflexes. Teofimo has them as well. But Shakur, he has a different kind of, he doesn't twitch as often as a Teo or a Canelo, but he's a master of distance and making your punch fall just a millimeter short. He's so good at that. So he doesn't need the quick twitch. He has such a good sense of distance. He just, pull back a little bit and make you fall just short and stay in range. So I favor Shakur because Teo struggles against boxers. Those two guys I named, Lomachenko and Taylor, they get their best work done coming at you. When guys know how to box off the back foot, that gives Teo a lot of problems. And then the consistency. He's had uneven performances against De Los Santos and Nakatia, but you never worry about where his head's at as much as you do with Teofimo. What's your thoughts, man?
I don't agree that Shakur is the favorite going away. I am more in the 50-50 range, and it's not unlike Canelo Crawford, at least the buildup. You will hear a lot of similar themes because Shakur is jumping to 140. That is the name of the game right now. And I realize that in history, fighters have gone through the divisions. However, I think skipping divisions now, jumping up and trying to face the guy at two divisions ahead of you to make noise right now and to take that challenge without a tune-up fight, I think that was marker of the past. You might jump up a division, but before you take on the guy, you take on somebody to get your feet wet and make sure this is where you're supposed to be kind of fights, which often were spoilers for the ultimate fight that you want to see. That guy that was supposed to be a tune-up was the one who actually beat you, or you ended up getting a robbery on the scorecards to beat him. This now, in this era now, well, we love to say that we have weight classes for a reason. Well, I think that is about to be tested as a theory because these fighters right now are not fighting in their weight classes for a reason because they're chasing big fights instead of having a promoter guide their career, not unlike what we spoke about with Boots Ennis and another subject on another section of the show. It's how you need to guide yourself in the current climate. And if you're going to be out here as a gunslinger without really a promoter calling the shots for you and you are making your own deals, then you got to keep your fights exciting. You got to keep proving that you're taking the big challenge and able to do fights that people aren't expecting you to take a challenge. And not only that, but then on the night perform. Well, we just saw Shakur come out with an exciting fight. It was a fight that got the fans engaged. It a fight that redeemed him in some respects for supposedly being an unattractive fighter when it's about entertainment. And Teofimo, has talked all his shit and was the guy who saved the New York show. And now he's taking a challenge from a lighter fighter who he believes he can clock. I've heard some tells in interviews that Teofimo has given, and he's kind of letting it slip or intentionally saying that, Shakur's a bit formulaic. Like he's got patterns, is more the quote.
Uh-huh.
I believe, and this is what he's not saying, but I believe he's saying by mentioning the patterns, that I know what he's going to do, and I got the counter for that. I believe that was his mindset going in against Lomachenko, who arguably is a more difficult fighter to figure out than Shakur, arguably. And if you think you got the guy's number, and you have some advantages in size, and he's the kind of fighter that fights to the level of his competition. Teofimo is not one of these guys who you're going to get consistency from. You're
Yep.
going to get what you need for that guy, and that also depends on whether or not he's in his right mind or his father is like driving him crazy. But if he's focused in and has a game plan for Shakur and believes that what he's able to counter that Shakur is bringing will be effective, and he's right, that's a damn tough fight and a pick 'em for me. I mean, skill wise, yes, Shakur, but the weight we'll see if weight's classic for a reason. I don't want to go on too much when you jump in. My last thought on that bit though is when you saw Crawford standing next to Canelo, most people's reaction was, "Wait, whoa." They are kind of like the same size. Yeah, there's a weight differential in where they compete, but these guys look like they should be in the same class.
Right.
That is not the case for Teofimo and Shakur. Shakur looks the smaller man. He is the shorter, smaller guy. And I think on the night, it will be a factor. It will be evident anyway. Whether or not it's a factor is up to the fighters.
Well, we got to see them on the scales, right? We got to see what a Shakur Stevenson 140-pound frame looks like at a scale, and then maybe we'll be saying on fight night the same shit we said once we got to Canelo Crawford on the scales. But to your point, people were peeping that before fight week, that they were all the way back in Riyadh after Canelo beat Skull. So to be fair,
Exactly.
I haven't seen these guys face off face to face though, so I can't make that assessment yet.
They were standing next to each other in a in a ring chatting heads moment. They brought him on. I forget, it was at some fight. They were sitting there and they
Yeah, yeah,
brought him on and they was talking shit to each other. And they weren't like so much face off, but they were standing next to each other and they, were profiling each other as close as you're gonna get to a face off. And the differential was visible. And you're right, that's my point. Like if that's his walking around with, if that's Shakur out of competition, I don't know. He's not gonna get taller. He's not gonna. I don't think gonna fill out so much at 140 that that disparity is going to equal off. And, I mean, he's just gonna be the smaller man there.
it's a great fight. Well, we'll see if it's a great fight. Great fighters, great matchups don't always produce great fights, but it's a great matchup because they're in their 20s. They're in their physical prime. Tio has been looking good. Yeah, yeah. Steve Claggett was uneven. Jermaine Ortiz wasn't that great, but he's still holding on to the title he beat Taylor for a couple years ago. He looked good in New York against Barboza. And it's it Shakur, all his good work got done against Zepeda in the pocket. And then down the stretch in the second half, he moved off a little bit and still diced him up. But sometimes when he boxes off the back foot, this happens with fighters. The offense takes a hit. And I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by the fight because Tio never looks good against boxers, guys that box off the back foot. But Shakur isn't as offensively, he doesn't have the combinations that he showed against Zepeda and against Jamel Herring when he's worried about what's coming back and gets a little bit more cautious, a little bit more in prevent defense. Does he have the power and the skills to make him to activate the same neurons that De Los Santos and Nakatia did? And how's he deal with a guy with good movement? Because when that's Sandor Martin or even George Kambosos or Jermaine Ortiz, he struggles with that. So I want to see how that looks. But if his mind's right and he dials up a right kind of game plan, styles make fights. I always knew he'd beat Lomachenko. I always knew he'd beat Taylor. I don't know if I'm picking him to beat Shakur, but I'm definitely not counting him out. My question to you is, because I've seen Tio with his reflexes, his counterpunching, his creativity, speed, and power. I've seen his talent jump off the screen. Do you think he's a more talented fighter than Shakur Stevenson?
I think he has more ability than he gets credit for because he does not deliver on his potential every time out. So talent depends on what you value. I think skill wise, efficiency, science of pugilism, it's
Timing,
Shakur.
distance, that's
Yeah,
Shakur.
all
Timing,
this
distance,
mathematics,
that's Shakur. Yeah.
that's Shakur. But talent, actual ability to make the adjustment, to game plan properly for your opponent, grit, energy to push him the pace and force the action to win a fight. Teofimo has that. And he is the fighter at 140 who's comfortable. It is Shakur coming to his weight. there is a conversation that will always be had about how long Shakur has on the hands before they
Yeah.
start swelling or hurting, or God forbid, even get like a
It held
fracture
up
or
on
something.
Zepeda's face extremely well.
Right, which gives him confidence, and he knows that going up to 140 is a marquee fight. You're going to get less and less kind of stay busy tune-up fights from these guys who are out here gunslinging to be in the conversation for the next big payday. That's the new environment that we live in, and like it or hate it, I believe that we're going to get more interesting contests that we don't expect or didn't see coming because of it. And so, yes, I think actually Teofimo is underestimated when it comes to talent, but it's his own fault.
Well, he thrives in this scenario. He's got a lot of people want to see him get his ass kicked for all the racist shit he said, and now he's fighting a black American fighter, so they'll be happy to see him, get his just due in their eyes. And he, but again, he, like you said, he's being a little underestimated. He is an underdog, I believe. If you check the potential odds, he's a significant underdog. And yeah, he has thrived in this situation before. I didn't plan on bringing that up, but since it is here, what do you think of that aspect to it? Tio has said all these things. Now he's facing Shakur. I don't know. What do you make of that
Listen,
aspect of it?
I'm not the type of pundit that just browbeats on a guy,
Yeah, you've
even when
spoken
I
on it
am
already. Yeah.
disappointed and even passionate about my disappointment. I spoke on that. I suggest people go look at that show with Sean and I. If you remember the title of it, I don't, but I think Teofimo was in there as after his banana bullshit and his in-word bombs and all of that. I put down my thoughts on what that means and who he is because of it. With that said, I'm open for guys fucking evolving, like moving past it. Of late, I haven't seen that. In fact, he's been almost annoyingly
Friendly?
conjugal. Is that the word? Congenial. Conjugal. He's been congenial. I mean,
He's Sandra Bullock over here. He's
in moments when you would expect a little bit more shit talking, which, it has to be authentic, fine. But he continues to take this. No, he's a great fighter, and, I like him for this and I like him for that. And whether he's talking about Crawford, or he's talking about Shakur, or whoever his opponent is, now all of a sudden he's, that guy. And that also, hopefully it's sincere. It seems a little disingenuous. It's kind of annoying. I don't know if I believe it, if it's false, humility. But he has definitely taken a step back from, embarrassing himself, really, and all these kind of racial petards and fucking just saying stupid shit that doesn't move the needle in any good direction. So do your talking in the ring, as it is said. Uh, him being an underdog, people underestimating him, in my opinion. Him being the guy who is being challenged in his own weight division by a smaller guy. It is a chance for him to do what Canelo did not do, which is make that matter.
yeah.
Make weight divisions matter again. Remind people that this shit really does have something to do with whether or not you can beat a fighter who may be less talented if you go up too high in the weight divisions to meet him. Now that's his opportunity, and I think he's here for it. I believe that it is a win if he can get it that he sorely needs, even with the New York card, which I believe again he saved it. He had some help from Rolly
It was all
Romero for
right.
sure,
Just
but
because just because the fight wasn't completely terrible like the two that followed it doesn't mean like he lit Times Square on fire. He
but
did
he
good.
saved
He
it
did
because he
good.
gave us a good fight to talk about. Again, Rolly Romero also
He took
deserves a
the
lot
show.
of
Yeah,
credit.
Rolly took that show by dropping Ryan. But I get your point.
He's the only guy who came and did what he was supposed to do. Let me put
Right,
it that way.
right,
He did what he was
right,
supposed to do, and he didn't stink up the place doing it.
right. Well, but and it's a chance. This is a chance to have his finest hour because as great as Lomachenko was, he was a 26 pounder in his 30s coming up. And if you knew the X's and O's of their styles, you knew it was actually a good style matchup for Lopez too, who was bigger and younger. Josh Taylor was having a hard time cutting down to 140. He retired a couple fights after they fought and had already really lost to Jack Catterall. This is a chance for Tio to cement himself as a great fighter. And for Shakur, the same thing. This is the chance for Shakur to truly eat at the table with his big brothers that much more
Mm,
with Floyd and Bud
yeah.
and Andre. You win this fight, become a 4 division champion, a lineal champion at that in this weight class, and you're always going to be little bro because they're older than you, but you're more on their level now than ever. So it's a great opportunity for both guys. Sounds like Raheem just wants the middle ground for Teofimo though. Like, yeah, bro, just because I said you shouldn't be saying all this racist stuff doesn't mean you have to walk everything back. You're still Teofimo. Talk your shit.
No,
Just
no,
like,
walk
yeah.
back the bullshit. Like talk shit about
No,
boxing.
that's what
Keep
I
it
mean. Like,
relevant.
don't
Yeah, and you
right,
don't have to be a nice guy. Just
right.
don't be a fucking idiot. Like you know what I mean. You don't have to put and I think again this kind of maybe false humility. Maybe it's not false and he's being sincere. I can't say,
No, he's a
but
multifaceted person. You don't know which Tio you're gonna get on that day. I think
and
a
you
lot of
don't
them
know
are
which
sincere.
Tio you're going to get on the night, and
Yeah,
that's the
exactly.
problem.
Right.
That's the problem. I don't need to see the racist TL on any day or night. We can chuck that guy out the window, get about your business, put on the best performances that you can consistently, and his star would rocket. He would eclipse Shakur for sure as a draw if he were that kind of consistent and I believe played the media more savvy than what he does. I feel like he feels like he's being very clever, but it's not landing. You know what I mean? I think who the guy actually is probably is the best version of himself that he should show us. And what we saw is the worst of him at times, and now we've seen kind of like his tongue-in-cheek presentation of the nice guy, and neither one of them is truly him. He's probably somewhere in the middle, and that's the guy that we need.